Welcome, Nicolas, to the Material Talk podcast. I am so excited to have you here. We have a lot of new listeners, so welcome everybody. As you know, Material Talk is a fashion tech magazine podcast. It's also an intelligence platform for leaders across the fashion tech space. And I'm really thrilled to have Nicolas here because he runs a company called Labwear Studios with his co-founders. And it's a really interesting story as to how it was formed, which I'm very keen to have Nicolas tell you. I found the company on Instagram after really meteoric growth. They had a couple thousand followers. When I first checked, I said, this is cool, I'll follow. When I checked back, 154,000 followers. So maybe it's even more now, who knows? And that's how I found them. And I really believe in the mission. And yeah, I'm thrilled to have somebody on the show where their values align so much with mine and with Material Talks. So hello, Nicolas, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Emma.
Absolutely. So in your own words, please, could you tell us a little bit about yourself or Labwear Studios, why you started it?
Yeah, I'm Nicolas, the co-founder and CEO at Labwear. Now I'm in fashion for the past 6 or 7 years. I think, especially then being a bit in the back end of the industry. So in the supply chain part, mainly, you really get to experience this legacy supply chain, which is a static, linear supply chain. It's super rigid. It does not really comply with the speed necessary to succeed when you're building a fashion business. When we started the company, we were a blanks company, right? We were selling essentially the most basic product you could sell, which is black and white t-shirts. But even there, we were struggling to keep up with timelines. The amount of delays we were facing, even with the initial launch, was not good for business success. Essentially, we were launching hoodies in April. You should launch hoodies ahead of the winter season, right? And this has a severe impact on your business because it is very much about cash flow management. You put product in inventory and you try to sell it. If timelines are off, it will have an impact on your revenue and on your profitability. So since that day, we have been focusing on, okay, how can we change this model to kind of provide overall more access to these major factories and increase the speed that we have in the timeline. So ever since, we've now turned into this supply chain tech company, I would say, and now providing global production capabilities to fashion brands. Initially only Portugal, now we are going fully global. The idea kind of being, okay, Uber is taking you from A to B as quickly and safely as possible. We're doing the same, just with product idea to bulk delivery as quickly and as reliably as possible. And essentially, this works by identifying the optimal supply chain configuration across a large global network of factories and then tracking the entire production process. So like this, we're literally replacing this linear, static supply chain with a global dynamic network of factories.
Absolutely. We've seen many brands, almost everybody today can start a brand if they have a bit of capital. We've seen many brands launch, ambitious brands, good with a good purpose, a good USP even. But most fail not because of marketing, but because of manufacturing, like we're talking about. What are the recurring mistakes that you see founders make when they first try to produce a collection?
It is based a bit on the legacy system as well, but honestly, generally, it's very about not having timelines managed properly. I think a lot of brands are struggling to be on time when they start development because you need to be quite a bit ahead of season and you need to have multiple collections being developed at the same time, right? It can be very challenging to think about multiple collections at the same time instead of going from one collection, developing it, sampling, moving into bulk, and then to the next collection. But it's really something that you need to be very skilled in managing multiple collections. Okay, then you need to follow up with all these manufacturers and so on. And there the chaos kind of erupts because suddenly you're just on WhatsApp, you're on email, and most of these conversations are handled quite informal. You outsource or push away some of the things when your tech pack is not clear enough and you're not defining every little detail. Okay, it will hit you back at some point where someone, in that case the supplier, will ask you, what's this detail? What do you want to have it like? If they're not asking you, okay, the chances are big that your product might turn out wrong. And then you're just constantly firefighting, right? Then it becomes this firefighting exercise. And there you need to be super pragmatic about it. I mean, if you do not have the product to sell, okay, you don't have the revenue. And if you don't have revenue, you don't have a business, and it kills your fashion brand. So essentially, you need to manage your timelines ahead of time. You need to be capable of managing multiple collections. You need to be very precise on how to define your product spec sheet, that you get the product that you want, and then you will have the success with the revenue end of the day.
Yeah, because as we've spoken about, fashion is a business. That's, it's got to be a
It
goal,
is.
right? So we've spoken a bit about your reach. You're mentioning you're going global, but you have done a lot of work in Portugal. And we've spoken about how factories in Europe are currently sitting at about 27% empty. Yeah, they don't have capacity. But at the same time, a lot of brands can't find access to production, or they don't have access to production. So why can't these two find each other? What's going on?
Yeah. I think actually this situation started occurring right around where we built and started the company, because anything that was prior to COVID, I would say, was mainly big production runs, right? You would produce 2,000, 5,000 t-shirts at a time. That's the history of this industry for the past 20 years, where the big production runs would dominate this infrastructure, right? Everyone was used to big production orders. And now, ever since COVID and kind of, I would name it the age of entrepreneurship, it has never been easier to start a brand, right, with Shopify and everything. So all these small businesses started coming up, but even the big brands are struggling with pushing out this mass product. Instead, it's splitting up into multiple collections with smaller units per school, right? But this obviously challenges this business model that has been mainly on, okay, we have quite high setup costs, we have high administrative work that is done extremely manual, like all the things ahead of a production order, which is analyzing a tech pack. Okay, then I need to do quotation. I might need to rework the tech pack, adding some specifications for the production department to understand it. Then I need to do multiple sampling rounds. And only then I might get a production order. And only with the production order, I earn money. Anything before that time is kind of risk. And if you split it up across multiple small brands with small orders, this risk is getting even bigger, and the chunk of work for a smaller revenue part is even bigger. So this business is seen as not profitable for a regular type factory, right? That doesn't have the setup. And this is kind of it prevents this connection of happening, right? Suppliers are neglecting this part of the market. And then you have this frustration of the smaller brands not really getting the access into the suppliers. And obviously, there we need to shift the current business model for suppliers to be able to intake this part of the market that is growing rapidly and to turn it into a profitable business for them.
So what does this look like? If we've identified that the traditional model is really built for these big fashion brands, and I think it's pretty much broken. I don't think it's going very well.
Yeah.
It's so fragmented. Supply chain issues are rife. So what do you think, what does the supply chain look like for small, fast-moving brands? What's the ideal design?
I mean, I would go back to the Uber analogy. I mean, essentially, you just want a global network of factories, right? This means, okay, suddenly you have access to all the capabilities that you could ever dream of. Instead of yourself building the relationships with these 20, 30 factories that you need to replicate all the capabilities you need for a massive collection, from denim to knitwear to activewear, whatever you want to do, it takes a lot, right? But now you would have suddenly this access to all these capabilities, and obviously it all being managed through one unified interface like the Uber app. I mean, it has never been easier to get a taxi in that way, right? They reinvented this user experience where you would not know how much the taxi ride is going to cost you, where to find the taxi, the rating of the driver. Now in the Uber app, you know the rating of the driver. You know exactly how expensive this ride gonna be and when you gonna arrive. We try to do the same thing. Essentially, okay, you upload the tag pack, we analyze the tag pack, we give you an immediate price for that product, so you will immediately know, okay, this product design that I just created will cost me approximately this price, and the lead time is this and this and this
Hmm.
if I want to produce it. So you know when you can launch the product. And then obviously in kind of the back end, we just do the data analytics. Like we know exactly where things are. We know how reliable certain factories are. We detect risks so we can dynamically shift and reroute this production order for making sure that you can launch on time, which is your absolute priority, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if we zoom out a bit, what does the industry look like in the next 10 years if we achieve what we're talking about, the syncing of factories and brands? How does that affect the entire fashion industry or
Yeah.
manufacturing? Yeah, either one.
I mean, end of the day, there will be a massive shift away from traditional business based on these linear supply chains towards these very competitive networks. But these competitive networks also give you the chance to improve the positioning of your business or your factory, right? You can benchmark the performance. It will be very transparent
Mm.
and you will be able to access bigger parts of the market to grow your business, right? So for suppliers, it's you can emerge out of the shadows. I feel like the supply chains right now is a very shadowy part of this industry. Not a lot of people like talking about it and make it public, and it's quite opaque on how certain suppliers get their contracts. If we get this on a very transparent network level, it will be tremendous for suppliers to position themselves more competitively, whether it's in Portugal, in Italy, in China, in Bangladesh. It doesn't matter because it just brings transparency. And you will actually also see that a product that is a hoodie can be very competitively produced in Portugal versus China because shipping costs are just getting insane out of
Mm.
China, for example. And on the other end, obviously, you will see the empowerment of small businesses, brands that have unprecedented access to the manufacturing capabilities that were reserved to the big fashion companies. So the ability to challenge big fashion brands will incredibly drastically increase over the next 10 years so that you will see more creativity, you will see more innovation, and essentially growth of these emerging fashion brands that are now they're frequent, but
Mm.
scaling these brands into serious business has been incredibly challenging, and you can name the few ones that achieved it, and you will see a lot more in that part of the market.
Yeah. Bonus question. You're working in this space. Do you see this happening? So obviously this is the goal. This is the ambition. What have you seen practically? Like, is this happening fast? Is it happening slow? You're expanding. Obviously, Labwear is doing really well. But yeah, what's the reality? Because I also speak always very optimistically, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you have to be as a founder. We want to be part of this industry as a positive source. It's the industry we love. But yeah, what are you seeing? Is it really happening?
It is happening very slowly. I think just right now we have one of the biggest opportunities because overall fashion is not doing incredibly well. And if an industry is not doing incredibly well, you see more change happening because
Yeah.
capacities might free up, right? And if there's capacity freed, there's an opportunity to take over capacity and reinvent something that has been broken before. Nevertheless, it's incredibly challenging. You are fighting on a business basis, right? No one is just entering a business relationship on pure idealistic hopes
Yeah.
in that sense. End of the day, the numbers talk and you need to build a serious business. There, the challenge is still there. The infrastructure you need to build on a global basis is incredibly challenging now in these times of geopolitics going crazy sometimes. You need to navigate regulation that is coming in for Europe.
Mm.
You need to navigate the Asian market, the US market, and so on. So this is incredibly challenging for smaller businesses. I think regulation as well is easier to be absorbed by bigger companies. But as long as we build all of these new technology platforms and make them available to all the smaller brands, they now have the same tools that the big brands have as well. And there's the opportunity with technology coming in. It is easier to adopt new technological opportunities for smaller businesses, while bigger businesses tend to struggle to implement and adopt new technologies that fast. So I think right now everything is about speed, adoption of new technologies, and so on. This is right now the biggest opportunity for that shift to happen.
Yeah, I love it. Optimistic, but rooted in practicality. I think you have a good head on your shoulders for this because you have to keep it real. You know, you have to recognize the complexities, but also remain positive, and that's hard. So thank you so much for joining us, Nicolas. It's been a pleasure. We will be watching Labwear, and I have no doubt that it's going to go great places. You know, it's going global, and we'll be watching your trajectory. So thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.